Violent extremism, driven by a perversion of Islam, struck 66 countries in 8 regions in 2017. Our Global Extremism Monitor found that more than 120 groups were active in 2017, and violent Islamist extremism claimed the lives of 84,023 people that year alone. 10 countries experienced the vast majority of those fatalities worldwide. Mali was the 10th deadliest country. The country suffered at least 493 deaths in 2017, with Al-Qaeda instigating much of the violence through its monopoly of the Sahel. Since 2012, violence in Mali has appeared to be confined to the north, but a failure by decision makers to correctly evaluate the situation has meant that concerns in central Mali are just as acute. Libya was the 9th. Over 1,000 people died in 2017. The most violent extremist element is the Jihadi Alliance of Benghazi Revolutionary Shura Council, who launched more than half of the Islamist attacks recorded here in 2017, concentrated in and around the coastal city of Benghazi. Libya serves as a gateway to Europe for migrants and refugees escaping conflict and destitution. In December 2017, more than 600,000 migrants from 40 countries reportedly made their way into the country. Pakistan was the 8th deadliest country. Pakistan's extremist movements killed over 1,489 people in 2017. The Pakistani Taliban was the deadliest group, killing 173 people. 247 civilians were killed in sectarian violence, with Pakistan's Shia population bearing the brunt of the violence. Over a third of these attacks took place in Balochistan province, where Shias constitute 20% of the population. Egypt was the 7th. More than 1,500 people died in 2017, with almost 2/3 of those recorded in the Sinai Peninsula. ISIS in Sinai was responsible for 90% of the 209 violent Islamist attacks in 2017, and has described Coptic Christians as its favourite prey. There were 13 assassinations of Coptic Christians and attacks on 4 churches in 2017. Yemen was the 6th. At least 2,497 people were killed here in 2017. 3 violent actors are broadly responsible for these attacks: the Houthis, a Shia Zaidi revivalist movement, ISIS in Yemen, and Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. The Houthis are the most violent Islamist faction in Yemen. The group was active in at least 18 of the country's 21 provinces in 2017. Nigeria was the world's 5th deadliest country. 3,399 people were killed here in 2017. Boko Haram's violent insurgency remains one of the deadliest in sub-Saharan Africa. The Sambisa forest provides a strategic triangle for the group, straddling the Mandara Mountains and Lake Chad. From here it launched 158 attacks in neighbouring Cameroon, Niger and Chad in 2017. The 4th was Somalia. 4,306 people were killed in 2017 due to the actions of the militant jihadi organisation Al-Shabaab and efforts to counter it. The group's truck bombing in Mogadishu of a government building was one of Somalia's deadliest terrorist attacks, claiming the lives of 587 people, most of them civilians. Afghanistan was the 3rd deadliest country. In 2017, almost 15,000 people died as a result of violent Islamist extremism and efforts to combat the problem, which has plagued the country for 40 years. Despite appearing to be in a state of disarray, the Taliban has managed to remain a strong force in Afghanistan. targeting police and military in almost 80% of attacks. The majority of airstrikes against them were focused on the provinces of Helmand and Nangarhar, where almost a quarter of the group's documented violent activities took place. ISIS Khorasan, the second biggest group here, wages a very different insurgency, targeting 60% of its attacks on civilians. Iraq was the second, where in total more than 17,000 people were killed in 2017. ISIS's territorial losses weighed heavy on the group, with the anti-ISIS coalition killing 12,000 of their foot soldiers. Their efforts focused on its northern territories and specifically on liberating the city of Mosul. ISIS's exploitation of civilians as human shields meant that 718 civilians died during counter-terrorism actions in Iraq. A total of 3,878 civilians were killed in 2017. 60% of all attacks were in the capital, Baghdad. Baghdad was the deadliest capital city in the world for violent Islamist extremism, with an attack taking place every other day in the city. Syria was the country most affected by violent Islamist extremism. Syria's civil war entered its 7th year in 2017 and almost 35,000 people were killed, including almost 16,000 extremists. 29 violent Islamist groups were actively engaged in conflict here in 2017, considerably more than in any other country. ISIS was the deadliest group, launching 44% of all extremist attacks. ISIS suffered considerable losses throughout the year, with counter-extremism actions killing 7,891 ISIS militants. Of these, 56% occurred in Deir ez-Zor and Homs. In January 2017, 5 Islamist groups and disaffected members of Ahrar al-Sham merged into Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. They launched 41% of the violent Islamist attacks in Syria. Civilians bore the brunt of the violence throughout 2017, accounting for 11,741 deaths. Half of all civilian fatalities recorded globally were in Syria. While almost all of 2017's global fatalities happened in these 10 countries, violent extremism is a global problem. Yet what unites these extremist groups is their perversion of Islam to further their objectives. While security measures will always be vital, they alone cannot defeat the ideas that drive this violence. Unless governments can develop a coherent global strategy to uproot their ideology, Islamism will grow, and with it, so will the violence.